Grab those quarters. We are heading to the arcade with the dude. Welcome, everybody, to FYC Film Review. I'm your host, Gagne, and with me is the Null Dog.
How's it going, man?
Good,
Dude.
man. Dude.
The dude. You're right.
The dude plays games.
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me.
He does, yeah. He's a very young looking dude. A very young Jeff Bridges in this movie.
Very good Jeff Bridges.
All right, so we're doing Tron, right? 1982. I was 2. You were
1.
Yeah. Right. All right, let me ask you this. Do you remember watching this movie as a kid?
I don't. I remember bits and pieces of it, but I remember the arcade game more than I remember the movie.
The arcade game?
Yes.
I don't remember that.
It was a very, very popular arcade game. Matter of fact, there's a vintage arcade spot like Flynn's, if you will, in my town, and it has Tron. So
excellent.
Yeah.
All right. I remember watching this movie as a kid. I never understood any of it. I just remember the light bikes, the light cycles, or whatever they're called, and then the glowing outfits and the the disc and the frisbees, or whatever you want to call it. And then the other recollection I have of this movie is, for all your old school Disneyland fanatics, there was a ride called the People Mover in Disneyland. And it's basically just a little train that you go on a track and you go through these tunnels. And in one of those tunnels was a huge projector of this grid. And it felt like you were inside this Tron movie. And as a 9-10-year-old kid, it was fascinating. It was scary as hell, but it was fascinating. That is all my recollection of Tron. So this should be fun.
That's awesome. I don't recall it, 1, being a Disney movie, and 2, that at Disneyland at all. So
yeah,
that's great fun.
So, all right. So this movie is way ahead of its time. Way ahead of its time in 1982. The CGI, the computer generated images. It was groundbreaking. It had to be groundbreaking at the time.
In the 80s, people didn't have computers. People had no idea what this terminology that they're using even meant. No idea. Hugely ahead of its time. And for that, I give it a lot of credit. I was shocked. I don't remember the last time I saw this, probably 30 years ago, and was just impressed with the story.
It's a good story. As a kid, it's definitely hard to follow. But it follows Flynn, who is a young computer programmer who gets fired from his company, right? Gets fired from the company, and he's created all these different games and programs, and the head of the company steals it. And that head of the company guy, I've seen him somewhere. I don't know who he is. I feel like I've seen him somewhere. I can't put my finger on it.
You can. He is a great character actor by the name of David Warner, and he was the handler, if you will, the bad guy, the right-hand man to Billy Zane in Titanic.
Fun fact. There you go.
There you
go.
There
it is.
He's been in so many things. But he most recently watched an old Scream movie. He was in an old Scream movie. He does so much voice acting. Great character actor. He's good in this. I thought he was good as
he's pretty
bad
good
guy, the head of the company.
Yeah, I really like the part where Flynn gets sucked into the grid with the Honey I Shrunk the Kids machine. I think it was really funny how he sat at the desk and the machine just happened to be pointed at the computer desk where he was sitting at. But it just reminded me a lot of Honey I Shrunk the Kids, and that's where the movie kind of starts to take place for me. Once he goes inside the grid, then it starts like, whoa, okay, here we go. So it's a good setup, I thought.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's not even really the main character in this, but everybody remembers Tron and Jeff Bridges. He's not Tron.
He's not Tron.
That is not Jeff Bridges. But that is Tron. And I, again, forgot that as well until, you realize, okay, it's Flynn. Where does Tron come in?
Yeah, it's Tron.
Tron
is just a program. That's
just a program. He literally gets sucked in a machine to help a program find another code so that he can claim what he rightfully made.
Yeah. Speaking of Tron, you know where it came from? Fun fact number 2. It's just Tron. It's just taken from the word electronic. That's it. Tron. Yeah. So there you go. That's why it's called Tron.
Yeah, there's a coder thing called Trace On, and some people thought it was that, but no, you're right. The writer just said, it's just Tron from electronic. Yeah.
Simple people. Very simple. The light bikes, the light cycles for me.
Yeah.
Those were amazing. As a kid, to me, those were amazing. I still want one. I still want to go in one. And I just think the way this movie shows that scene is it's pretty breathtaking. I know it's 2022, and I know this is dated for sure. It's dated, but seeing this back in the day, 1982, not that I did it, it had to be amazing. It had to be something just groundbreaking.
Yeah,
It looks good.
shocking, and I think that part of it is like just maybe they didn't promote it well. I don't know. It bombed. It did not do well at all. Maybe it's because it was a Disney movie, and so it's like kids are supposed to go to see this, but
Yeah,
like to your point, the story arc is way too complicated for a kid to stay up
totally.
with. Like you'd be bored out of your mind. Looks pretty awesome. Show me more of the cycles. What else is going on in between that means nothing to a child, but it
Yeah.
bombed. Like the video game, the arcade game I mentioned actually did better in sales than this movie did.
Okay. Really?
And it's just it blows my mind. And I guess watching this, I'm like, okay, it's a very sophisticated script and story, a little nerdy, with a lot of computer jargon and code and
A
whatnot.
little nerdy.
Well,
Come on now, Chris.
but there's frisbees and what's the game that they play where they're flinging the ball back and forth, like
Pong? Is it Pong?
I guess it was kind of like a Pong. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a really clever story because, to put it in like simple terms, there's a user, a guy who writes a program, and then the program that he writes. And the program to us, it's portrayed as a human, and the programmer sees the user as godlike, very godlike, because the user is feeding all this information to the program on this frisbee, on this information disk, and the programmer just has to do what this godlike creature, the user, is. And that's why Flynn goes in, who's a user, and he has these like godlike powers in there where he creates. And I just kind of messed with me a little bit once he got in there and he was able to create these machines and was it like a Lego type of thing where you would just build Legos?
Sure. Yeah. Basically take old parts of, old code and just put it all together to write something new for himself. And
right.
Yeah. He kind of comes off like godlike in that he tries to, saves the day. Did he explain to them that he was a user that got pulled in?
He did. Yeah.
Okay.
He did. He finally
like
came out
that.
clean and said, I got to be honest with you. I'm a user. And they're like, oh, you're a user? Like, so.
Right, which gave me like Matrix vibes again. It's like the real person getting sucked into the reality and vice versa. They're aware that there is something else, but they just don't know what it is. And
yeah
so little vibes there. Very like for a science fiction movie, man. I'm impressed. Like they had a good score, which I got a shout out. I feel like every composer we talk about is always a male.
Who was the score?
Wendy Carlos.
Interesting.
And she was like queen of like using a synthesizer, which is very prominent in this. She also did The Shining. She also did Clockwork Orange. So she worked with Kubrick a lot.
Okay.
And I liked it. I thought it kept me engaged. You need a little bit more because you're almost unaware of like what you're watching on screen. It's just a bunch of colors and shapes and computer stuff going on. So I thought that was, helped kind of ground it and keep it a little more intense.
Yeah, I think to your point where you're saying it's a lot of colors and shapes and grids and moving parts, I think for me, that part was good. I think the movie was way too long for, what was it, an hour
and 36 minutes?
36 minutes. It's
long.
Way too much. It's like, it's just way too much eye candy for me.
It does feel, I will say that it's muddled in the middle with like a lot of like explaining and a lot of talking, not a lot of really stuff happening. It's a lot of guards taking the programs from here to there and trying to get rid of programs. But I didn't think it felt long, but
I did.
I hear what you're saying. There's some slower parts. Yeah,
a lot of slower parts. And then the gal, the gal in the Tron universe, or the grid, or what do you call it? Her name was, the programmer was named Yuri. At the end, I just thought it was really weird how like she made out with Flynn, and then like 5 minutes later she made out with Tron.
Yeah, that was kind of odd. You're like, surprised he's also the hero, so he also gets the girl. It was also very interesting because in the real world, the three of them were kind of in this,
he dated her, right?
He dated her in the past and knew her, and then now she's with this other guy. That was actually interesting. It was just awkward. Yeah, you're like, why are you guys kissing? Like, it wasn't like you, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird.
All right,
whatever. It's Tron, 1982
program.
I guess. I mean, I I don't know. Do users kiss their computer programs?
Is it like making out with the keyboard? We're going way off the rails here. Now we're just gonna leave that
Okay.
there.
All right. Why don't we just rate it? All right. Let's rate it. It's 1982. We're not computer gurus. We watched the movie. So let's just rate it.
We're gonna go with users because we are the godlike figures here that chose this route with the, I don't know. We're going with users, you know.
All right.
So
1 to 5.
yeah.
1 to 5. 1 user being really bad. 5 users being great, fantastic, just an amazing 1982 movie. I'm gonna let you go first because this movie is really weird and I need some time to think.
Yeah, I'm oh man, I go back and forth. I really like the story. I really like what it presented. I'm giving it bonus points for how innovative it was in 1982. And I feel that, you know, like you said, this is just a case of it being too early. Like 20 years later, this movie would have fucking killed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the sequel wasn't as good in my opinion, but this one, I'm gonna give it 3.5 users.
Okay. All
I
right.
liked it. I thought
3.5.
I was impressed.
Really? 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5.
Sure about that?
I'm sure I liked it. I'd watch it again.
All right. Okay, 3.5. 3.5 users for you. I actually enjoyed the film because I got it, because I'm an adult now. I feel like I'm a little bit smarter and I understood it a little bit. I just think it's a little too much for me. It's a little too much neon. It's like I need a little breathing. They never went back to the real world. Once they were in the grid, you never saw the main gal or Alan, who was Tron, they never went back to the real world. Everything took place in the grid after that, unless I'm mistaken. So I appreciate this movie. Is way ahead of its time. I think people need to watch it. I think I'm gonna give it I'm gonna give it a 3. I'm gonna give it 3 users because I appreciate it. I got sucked in. I appreciate it, and I think it's worth a watch. Definitely worth a watch. It's better than Legend. How's that?
Agreed. And we've done this time and time again, but 80s movies don't always hold up. They tend to be dated, and thankfully, due to the technology and some of the special effects, like it still works. It's dated in the sense that that graphics have just gotten so much better. It's more the like this was 40 years ago. Like I love it. So yeah,
cool. All right,
the game's over. We've done Tron 1982. Jeff Bridges. Check it out. Check our other stuff out. Get a chance, like and subscribe. We appreciate you guys watching, and that's all we've got for this time. Thanks for watching FYC Film Review, guys. I've been your host, Gagne. With me, as always, my partner in crime, the Null Dog, and we'll catch you next time.
See you guys later. Have a good one. Go watch Tron. Go check it out.
Peace. Bye.